Okay, hi everybody. Just a simple little video tonight, nothing too complicated, but it sort of addresses ourselves and other people and our relationship with other people and, how Illuminism is perceived by other people, ontological mathematics, and what problems we face. And the title of the video is, of course, is Ontological Mathematics and the Theory of Everything. Why does everyone hate ontological mathematics? Everybody seems to hate it. But we're also going to address and consider, what does everyone actually universally want, and is there some consistency actually there to be found? Interestingly enough, there is. Not that it's helpful. So what people want is, it's really strictly a product of their personality type. We'll return to this in a little bit, talk about the different personality types, the four basic types of what people seek in an answer to everything, which governs what they seek in an answer to everything. Interesting. Now, here's the interesting part. Everyone actually still wants to be part of the truth. You actually don't find people that are saying that they want to be part of the lie. Like, that's not what Christians say, or Abrahamists say, or Jews, or Buddhists. They're not saying, "Oh yeah, I'm really happy being part of the lie." No, everyone. Like, it's interesting, right? That despite all these different approaches to believing what the truth is, everybody still wants to be part of the truth, right? So there is actually a universal drive across all people. What's similar between us? We couldn't be more opposed, Illuminists, ontological mathematicians, couldn't be any more opposed to, say, Jews or Buddhists or, Muslims, but we still actually have a fundamental similarity in that we all want to feel and think that we are part of the truth, right? Maybe that's not that important, but it's just kind of interesting to note that, given these drastically different configurations of mind that are so opposed to each other, yet still they all want to feel like the truth is part of them and they are part of the truth of the universe and of existence, right? Except, of course, for this, for a for a noetic parasite. A noetic parasite, something that is a parasite of the mind that feeds off of the energy dissipated by cognitive dissonance. That is the one type of species that actually is not actually interested in the truth, because it uses that as sort of a niche position in the sort of noosphere to feed off of energy, much like a parasite feeds off of energy leakage from sick animals in biology, in the biosphere. When you have minds which don't have good immune systems and can't protect themselves from what's relevant to a mind, what's a mind all about? Thinking, rational thought. So if a mind doesn't do rational thought pretty well, then it's going to leak energy. And the simplest thing for nature to do is to have a noetic parasite. A noetic parasite, a mental parasite, a parasite in the noosphere that's, above the biological sphere. You can say that this is on the astral planes or whatever you want to say, but it's a spiritual, energetic, mental parasite, which then lodges into the mind, the collective mind of humanity, and feeds off it, and that's what we're facing. One person who did an excellent job describing this situation, describing the nature of a noetic parasite, although he didn't realize that that's what he was discussing, Otto Weininger, an ex-Jew, described a noetic parasite. So it is a creature that cannot grasp the mutual exclusiveness of A and not A, and it has no difficulty in lying. More than that, such a creature has not even any consciousness of lying, being without a standard of truth. Now, that's very important for the noetic parasite. It can never recognize truth, because that's precisely what it feeds off of, is a cognitive dissonance of untruths being held within a mind, of conflicts being held within a mind. So the last damn place a parasite, a noetic parasite, wants to go is anywhere near the truth. So automatically it fits exactly like this. This perfectly describes a noetic parasite. It cannot even have any consciousness or awareness of lying, being without a standard of truth. Such a creature, if endowed with speech, will lie without knowing it and without the possibility of knowing it. Now, that's just such a wonderful quote that totally describes what it's like, for example, arguing with a Jew, as Hitler used to say. And that totally describes what it's like arguing with climate alarmists. And anyway, just a noetic parasite. That's what you find with a noetic parasite, just a complete, and that's what I wrote about in my book. I came up with an application of ontological mathematics relevant to climate alarm, which is just so damn simple, flat Earth versus round Earth, and they just cannot address it. They just can't do it. They just can't bring themselves to say that there's a difference between round Earth and with hot sunshine and flat Earth with cold sunshine. They just are incapable. They're just mentally totally incapable of going there, of addressing it, and of acknowledging it. Because right now, that is a major cognitive dissonance area that this noetic parasite we're infested with here is feeding off of humanity. So just naturally cannot go anywhere near that. Okay, anyway, such fascinating stuff. We'll have to come back to this noetic parasite issue. Let's continue. So the personality type wants emotionalists, the most common type. Infinite emotion. They want infinite love and they want infinite hate. They say they don't want infinite love, but they actually want infinite hate for everybody who's not going to be part of their infinite love fest, right? So typically this is, anyone with IQ less than 110 is going to fall into this category, roundabouts. Infinite love for you, heaven, infinite hate for others, hell, and they want the most emotional story that you can possibly imagine. It has to just be filled with so much emotion if you imagine it to be true. So for example, this must really trigger something. You just have to appreciate this must really trigger something deep in the female psyche, just the horror and discomfort of childbirth and just how horrible that is. So can you imagine having a baby in a barn with the animals and in the straw and the manure all around you? Oh my God, that's horrible. What an emotional story, right? Christianity obviously referring to it here, right? Same thing. That boy grows up, and then what? Brutal violence, torture to death, ultra violence. Now you've got the men involved, right? The Passion of the Christ movie. Like, what a disgusting movie. It's just gore. It's just a gore fest of violence. It's sickening. But man, that's, the guys love to watch that movie, right? And the women, I guess, will watch it too. And, the guys can appreciate having a baby in a barn. Man, that must suck, right? Family, your child is infinitely special. It's God, and it suffered the above, and you couldn't do anything to stop it. Oh, and then the other thing, it's your only son. Your only son died by torture. Just so emotional. There's just so much emotion. And then, throw in worship. I'm going to do a whole video on worship. Just the idea of how disgusting worship is. And I'll just give you the basic concept here that we'll cover in the future. Have you just ever considered that they consider an equality between the word worship and spirituality? Do you get how fucking disgusting that is? To be spiritual is to worship. And you'll hear them at church, we're so blessed today to be able to come here together to worship. How does that equate to being spiritual? It's such a disgusting concept. You know what it is? It's profane. It's the utmost profanity. It's profane. Worship is synonymous with spirituality, with being spiritual. Really, guys, what you should do for anyone who's just not cottoning on to just the absurdity, honestly, go watch the series Stargate SG-1. Go watch that series and you'll get what worship is and how these entities are using worship, right? It's just a ridiculous concept. Worship in the future, I would hope that the relationship between worship and spiritual becomes an object of just ridicule and a laughter. That people would have ever thought that worshiping something is what is spiritual. Just so absurd. Anyway, we'll have a whole separate video on that. But one thing you will hear, for example, Christians say, I heard a Christian say once, speaking about the Bible, he's just, we're just so lucky to have the truth of our Savior and to have the truth of what existence is. And, I feel bad that other people don't have this truth, but we have this truth, so for them, it's a very emotional story, and that constitutes what the truth of all of existence is. That's the truth for them of the whole grand thing, the whole nature of existence, why existence exists, where existence came from. It all came for this really emotional story. It all exists for this really emotional story, and that's it for them. They don't need, why does something exist rather than nothing? What are its properties? How come, why is there a wave equation? Things that they don't need any of that. For them, the answer to existence is that it's a really emotional story. And for them, their truth is that they're part of it and that it affects them and that they're getting a benefit from this emotional story, and that's it. Simple as. All right. Who's next? The sensing-ists. So this is your scientific materialists and your midwits. This is around roughly IQ between 110 to 120. This is your university academic professors and your, teachers somewhat to, science teachers, things like that. Yeah, so this is what they want, actually. This is really good to consider. Infinite sensing. They want infinite sensing. This is actually the origin of multiverse theory. Multiverse theory is simply infinite sensing because they're imagining infinite numbers of Big Bang explosions. And for them, they're just like, oh, the sensing of so many explosions of Big Bangs. Billions and billions of atoms, uncountable numbers of atoms. There's just so many atoms to sense, right? That's really where multiverse theory comes from. It's just a product of their sensory need, of their need to have sensory stimulation. What is maximum sensory stimulation? The multiverse, where there's infinite different universes, infinite Big Bangs happening, right? Just so much infinite sensory stimulation, infinite things to touch, infinite atoms, infinite explosions. Wow, they're so loud and they're so bright. Could you imagine infinite explosions? Infinite Big Bangs, so much loudness and brightness. That's really all their thought process. There's this one physicist, what's his name? Sean Carroll. And he says, real midwit guy, thinks he's really brilliant. And he goes, we didn't come up with multiverse theory just by coming up with it off the top of our heads for fun. No, there's real reasons in physics and in astronomy for why there should be multiple universes. And it's like, oh God, you listen to his ideas. They're so stupid. It's like, no, Sean, it really just comes down to you're a sensing type materialist and you just need to have infinite sensory stimulation. The emotional types need their religion to be infinite love and infinite hate and infinite torture and infinite sweetness, a sweet, precious baby, all those emotional things, right? Sensing type materialist simply needs infinite stimulation. So they came up with multiverse theory for that. That gives them infinite sensory stimulation. Infinite quantum choices. Wow, I need to be a computer. Do you remember in that one of those previous videos where I was bashing that Kooks guy, whatever he was? And he made fun of me. He tried to make fun of me. He called me a Luddite because I mentioned something about smartphones making people stupid. And then I was like, paraphrasing him. I was like, don't make fun of smartphones. That's what I want to be. God, whenever I think of that, it was so funny. That's literally what goes through their mind. Don't make fun of smartphones. That's what I am. That's what I want to be. I want to be a smartphone. Don't make fun of smartphones. God's sakes. That's your materialist. That's your sensing type. They want to be a computer. They want to be a computer. That's why they're so fascinated about uploading themselves to be a computer, because then they can start processing somehow with better detectors, better cameras, and sensory things that they can hook up to this computer that can go beyond the sensory limits of the human body, and they can just have that much more, sensory stimulation, and then crunching the numbers for some reason. Why? I don't know why. They just want to, crunch the numbers for some reason. Not that it goes to any point in their scheme. They just want to do it. Okay, so anyway, that's your sensing types. Now we have the mystics. Maybe they have a little bit higher of IQ, 120 to 125. But then on the other hand, there's some that are really, really dumb, and they might be more like the 80 to 85. I don't know. That's kind of, the New Age love and light, the drug addict type people. So they just want the infinite mystery can't be known. It's all stupendous profundity. To conceive it is to evaporate into its oneness and become the drop mixed into the ocean. You can never scoop back out. It's largely just emotionalism again, but with a bit of midwittery thrown in. So it's kind of like, intellectual emotionalism is really what mysticism, Buddhism, things like that reduced to. It's just it's slightly intellectualized emotionalism. But it's, you know, sometimes, well, I was going to say nihilistic, but then it's hard to make sense of what it is actually. Lastly, the rationalists, who are the ontological mathematicians. Ultimately, rationalists wish to avoid, yeah, remember when I characterized that that is the mission of philosophy? That's a really good way to define what the mission of philosophy is. Here's the two tasks you have to do in philosophy. One, avoid appeal to mysticism, avoid appeal to mystery. And two, avoid infinite regress. That's your two tasks. If you can succeed in doing that, well, what do you create? You actually create ontological mathematics and something from nothing. That's the only way to do it. You got to avoid appeal to the mystical and appeal to infinite regress. You know, and then of course scientists and materials, they just appeal to infinite sensory stimulation, right? Which is, you know, again, an infinite regress, right? They're multi-universe theory, right? So yes, rationalists wish to avoid the mystical, infinite regress, and the simply ridiculous, such as the emotional. So typically you're going to have an IQ above 125 to even be sort of in this realm. Uh, Unfortunately, we largely have no voice or place or locus in the world, although we have that now in the form of ontological mathematics and Mike Hockney and all the books. We do have a locus. But we're still just so few in number. So yeah, all the other percentages make up basically 95 to 98% of humanity. The rationalists, only a few percent. That's why we're so alone and we have no recognized locus. And we're lonely AF and, you know, basically nomads. Maybe some of us are geniuses. I don't know about that though. But at least we have, yeah, at least we have the Hockney books now. So we want an answer that makes sense logically. Of course, all the others think that their answers are logical too, right? This is about rationalizing versus rationalism, right? So they rationalize their answers through their filter that they need to have fulfilled. So they have an emotional, they need to fulfill their emotion, they need to fulfill their senses, they need to fulfill their mystery. And so they rationalize through that, right? That's not actual rationalism. It is rationalizing, but it's not rationalism, right? Of course, you know, from their perspective, they think that their answers are totally logical. So for example, in emotional type, they think it's totally logical. It's a 100% logical that there's a really emotional story about a baby that was born and that you're a sinner and through torture and its death, you're going to be saved from it. And, you know, you worship. Worship is what is spiritual, you know, because that's obviously a lot of emotion going in there to be forced to worship or else you don't get, you know, the goods. They think that's 100% logical and 100% forms an explanation of existence, of the whole universe, of why existence exists, right? Of course, for the rationalists, it's like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Like, it's just, and it obviously don't need to go into that further. Rationalists can comprehend why others went with the ideas that they did, but the others really will never, ever be able to comprehend or appreciate what us rationalists want or what our ideas even mean, right? They'll never do it. They can only, you know, because yeah. So bringing us to why everyone hates the logical answer of ontological mathematics and Luminism. Why does everyone hate it? Simply because ontological mathematics does not provide an emotional story or a sensing story or a mystery. Ontological mathematics is the precise opposite of that. It's the precise opposite of an emotional story. It's the precise opposite of a sensing story. And it is the precise opposite of a mystery. It completely solves the mystery. It completely takes away the importance of sensory stimulation because existence becomes mental, a thinking object, not a sensory object. Although it can produce sensory stimulation, it is not in and of itself a sensory object. Existence is mental. And yeah, you take away emotion from that because it's not about, you know, some crazy emotional story. It's just about, you know, logical reason, right? And so that's why they hate it. The other types really, really hate that. And why? Because it takes away the meaning of their life as they experience it. It takes away their perceived association with the truth, right? And like I said, everyone actually does want to be associated with the truth. Everyone actually does feel like, except for the noetic parasite, everyone else does feel like, does feel that they, and think that they want to be associated with the truth, that the truth, as they understand it, has a bearing on existence out there and existence personally for you, right? So you take that away from them, I mean, they'll kill you for it. They will literally murder you for it en masse. They'll torture you to death for it, right? I mean, that's not something that rationalists have ever actually done, is kill people for discussing concepts. Well, maybe it's, is existence pantheist? Is it panentheist? Is it, uh, well, whatever the hell the other definitions are, We don't kill each other over those ideas, and we don't kill other people for not thinking the same thing, right? But these types, the other types, they will all murder you for taking away their perceived association with the truth. They will murder you for taking away their emotion. They will murder you for taking away their senses. They'll murder you for taking away their mystery. Well, maybe the other ones haven't done that, but certainly the emotionalists have done lots of killing. Ontological, so that's just kind of funny. Ontological mathematics, Illuminism, is the only religion that doesn't make you feel good. All these other ones offer something to make a person feel good. Ontological mathematics doesn't actually make you feel good, right? So that's just kind of funny. At least with scientific materialism, you get to die and disappear from it all. So of course, think of that nihilism. And of course, we all know that scientific materialism is the most ultimate expression of nihilism that you can possibly create. That's why they don't care about anything. That's why they have no standards for beauty or truth or anything like that anymore. That's why they're totally pro any sort of degeneracy now. Because for them, it's just, it doesn't matter. You're just dying anyway. So do whatever the hell you want. They have no standards for beauty or value or anything, right? Just complete nihilism. At least with Abrahamism, someone might love you and take care of you. Oh, that'd be nice. At least with New Age, you get to die and be gone, but also remain around in some way or another. It's not clear exactly what's going to happen. Maybe you get to keep on watching, but it's not going to hurt you anymore. Maybe something like that. Okay, with Illuminism, it's just 100% on you. No one loves you. Everyone else is going to try to hurt you. You have no help, and you are stuck on this planet for the very long term until you figure it out. And what are you going to figure out? It's not clear what you have to figure out, right? So I just kind of thought, the answer isn't the answer. So for the other types, the answer of why existence exists is their also correspondent with their personal answer of what they're supposed to do in their life, right? We don't really have that in ontological mathematics. We have the true answer for why existence exists and what its properties are. But that answer does not actually inform us completely of, our personal life and our emotions and, and what we're supposed to actually do in life, right? So it's the answer, but it's actually still not the answer. I don't know if that makes sense. I was in a bad mood when I wrote that. Illuminism, ontological mathematics, is only for the strongest minds who can face the fact that they're in for one hell of a beating, and there's nothing you can do about it. Embracing the facts is the ultimate act of life. Yeah, you just got to accept the fact because it's rational, it's logical, it's proven, and there's nothing you can do about it. So embrace it and learn how to make it great. Ontological mathematics, Illuminism, people who follow this will form the basis of future humanity if there is to be a future humanity at all. It's going to represent an upgrade of human consciousness away from emotionalism and sensing to true reason. We're going to do a lot of cool things. There'll be a lot of awesome things to do in that realm. It'll be great. We will, in fact, stop the beatings and make a paradise instead. Well, it won't just be a stagnant paradise where you're like some sort of parasite and fat slob. It's going to be a healthy, becoming one, pursuing the form of the good, like the ancient Greeks, pursuing the form of the good in becoming and expansion of consciousness in that. So yeah, it'll be great. It'll actually be really great. We'll become God minds directing the future of humanity and ultimately the finale of the universe eventually. So of course, one expression you read a lot in the Hockney books is, you're going to become God. And that's always been a bit confusing because like, well, you got to define what you mean by God, because obviously you don't mean the Abrahamic God because, that doesn't exist and that's been debunked and all that. Or if it does exist, it's just some psychopath being out there. So that obviously that's not what we mean. So by becoming God, we mean this. God minds, you're going to direct the future of humanity, the future of the universe, that kind of thing. So moving up the scale to higher levels higher orders of consciousness. You know, kind of like how this noetic parasite I've been referring to actually exists at a higher level of consciousness. It's not a physical parasite. It exists in the energetic, non-material domain, and it feeds off of energy. So we're going to move, you know, to a higher level above that. That we'd be able to see that, and you know, kill that parasite and get above it. And that, well, that parasite actually wouldn't even be able to live with our minds at all, because our minds wouldn't be so subject to cognitive dissonance that the parasite could have set up shop. We'd have too healthy of an immune system, mental immune system. So that parasite simply wouldn't be able to live with us, right? That parasite has to stay, only exists with fledgling consciousnesses like we have had up till now with humanity. That's where this parasite lodges into, and it really, really wants to stop the conscious expansion of a species like us with a fledgling consciousness. Really, really wants to stop that because it's feeding quite well, you know. And so, you know, maybe a lot of species don't get past that. Maybe the parasite wins and just makes the collective consciousness of a species so sick that it dies off, and its potential for conscious expansion simply ends. You know, like parasites biologically, physically can kill animals, and those animals will end. You know, so what we need is a group of us to be minding our minds well enough and resolve it. You know, that's actually what reading the books do. Reading the ontological mathematics books, the Hockney books do. They will rationalize your mind and make your mind um, immunized to this noetic parasite that wants to keep your mind stupid and feed off of it. So yeah, cool, neat idea, right? I think that's it. Oh yes, and then yeah, we're not going to be retarded retards who make existence hell. Good. Right. Okay, I think that's it. So anyway, just a basic overview, right, of exactly what's going on. Uh, Not really anything technical, but of course this has been discussed to death, obviously, in the Hockney books. They've gone on and on and on with psychological analysis about why people don't want the truth. So this is just a bit of a summary of what's happening, and it's just that's the facts. You're not going to change it. You're not going to change an emotional type and make them rational and make them appreciate ontological mathematics. They would rather kill you or even die themselves than go there. It's just simply never going to happen. And as such, the emotional types, the sensing types, and the mystics are going to remain prone, and as they are currently infected with this noetic parasite, this species called the zetas, that is feeding off them, and it is going to continue feeding off of them until they're dead. Um, yeah. So the rest of us who are rationalists, somehow we're going to have to escape that um, uh, paradigm. Well, we're already escaped that. We just, I don't know what's going to happen, but somehow, yeah, we need a new world to live in or something. I don't know how it's going to work, but something's going to have to happen. Okay, well, that was kind of fun. Anything else? Yeah, I would like to do a future video. I kind of covered it on just the sheer absurdity of the idea of worship being synonymous with spirituality. Yeah, what I'll do is I should actually have a video that's titled "What is considered spiritual in Illuminism?" That would be wonderful. I'll do that. How about I do that video? Ontological mathematics and the theory of everything. What is spiritual? What do we define in ontological mathematics as a spiritual act, behavior, activity? You know, that'd be wonderful. So in that video, I'll address that some people have this idea that spirituality is worshiping. You know, and like I said, go watch the whole series, all seasons of that Stargate SG-1. You'll get the idea of just, you know, the absurdity of worship through science fiction. I mean, that's a lot of series to watch. Just, you should be able to understand the idea. Worship, spirituality, that's a profane concept. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting, actually. It's sickening. It's a sickening, disgusting concept that worship is what is spiritual. How sickening is that? What a mind fuck. God, that's gross. Okay. I think that's it. Got my new board set up. Maybe I'll show a picture of it here in editing. There, I just put it up. Yeah, that's my new board. Pretty sweet, right? I love it. Should I explain what's cool about wolves versus as predators versus parasites? That's a wonderful discussion. I'll do that in a future video too. Why are wolves and predators in general so freaking awesome and wonderful? And why are they actually so good for a herd? Why should a herd actually love having wolves around compared to parasites? You know, that's a wonderful topic of discussion to have actually. Really good insights to have there about the nature of um, just our biological existence here on Earth. Okay, bye bye everybody. Bye.